G'day, I'm Hamish Watson from Christchurch, New Zealand. Welcome to SQL Bits 2020 and to my session on Culture is Vital for DevOps Success. Alrighty, why have I chosen a session on culture at a technical conference? Well, after the session, you'll not only understand why I have, but actually understand why it truly is vital for DevOps success. And in fact, probably your career's success. Alrighty, I used to be that guy, now I'm that guy. I've been working in IT for 1 or 2 haircuts. And bringing DevOps to, well, just bringing DevOps is my personal passion. I've been doing DevOps since before it even had a name. Back early on in my career, I worked with some developers, and I realized pretty early on that rather than fighting against them, I needed to work with them. And it was a really valuable lesson. Well, it was a hard lesson. But over time, I realized that both developers and myself, we had a common goal. And over the years, I've enabled other people to realize why DevOps is such an important thing to not only embrace, but to live. I also do some technical stuff. I run my own company, Morphit, and basically help people understand both data, the cloud, and of course DevOps. I'm also a director at large on the PASS community board, and basically when it boils down to it, I'm a technologist who understands business value. I'm not wrapped up in the ones and zeros. I'm wrapped up into how we all can deliver value to our respective clients. And sometimes those clients might be internal. I may be providing a platform, or I may be developing an application that's consumed internally. It's not always about delivering to external clients. And a mantra of mine in pretty much everything I do is to make stuff go. A couple of companies think that I know 1 or 2 things about ones and zeros. I'm a friend of Redgate, I'm a VMware expert, and Microsoft have deemed it appropriate that I am a Microsoft MVP, which is really cool because it's truly an honour to be able to give back to the community and also, you know, help people learn like I am today. Look, what happened was the past 6 months, the world has had a dramatic change. You know, I'm working at home pretty much 100% of the time, even here in New Zealand, where we're not in any form of true lockdown. And what has happened is that the dynamic of how we work has changed. I now work for clients who I've never actually met in person. Teams that I used to work with, that I sat next to or worked in the same building with, I now do this. It's all virtual. And what that has meant is that with distributed teams, if you don't have the right team culture in place, working this way is pretty much either going to make or break what your company's doing. Or it's definitely going to make or break your team culture. And honestly, by the end of this session, you'll realize how important culture is for not only teams, but also for ourselves. So I guess at this stage, you're probably thinking to yourself, uh-oh, he really is talking about culture. Yep, it was there in the title. It was pretty much a giveaway. But look, I realize that some of you might be thinking that when I talk about culture, I'm talking about, you know, we stand in a circle, we hold hands with a stranger, and we tell that stranger they're a beautiful person. Well, the cool thing is, we don't have to hold hands. You're all beautiful people. This is not the kind of culture I'm talking about. By the way, this is absolutely fine if you want to stand around in a circle and hold hands and tell each other that you're beautiful people. But I've found over the years, from personal experience, where, you know, human resources or HR have made me do that, where I stand in a circle holding hands, that it's kind of awkward, and I don't particularly like it. This is not the culture I'm talking about. This is a type of culture that I'm talking about, one of collaborative communication. And you're going to hear me use the words collaboration, communication, maybe even common sense, and common goals. And the type of culture that I work with in terms of working with people, I'm an agile coach as well as a DevOps alchemist. I like to bring them together towards a common goal. What is the goal of the company? How do I fit in? Who will I be working with? Who can help me? Who can I help? And so again, collaboration is key to bringing team dynamics together in a culture of togetherness. Wow. Yeah, it's all good. It's going to get better than this. So, let me quickly talk about DevOps, because there's no point talking about it without actually having a definition of what it is and what it means. Donovan Brown, who's the principal DevOps manager for Microsoft, came up with this exceptionally brilliant definition, where DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. And I guess the key takeaway from this is, what is the value? What is the value to our end users? And we need to define that. And I found when I worked in a software company for 17 odd years as operations manager. And so the definition of value for me, you know, I was in charge of systems management as well as second level support. The definition of value for us will be different to the definition of value for you and your clients. And so you need to work out what that is, what your clients actually want for you. At worst, go and ask them, you know. And if you think, well, no one else is doing that, that's exactly why you got to do it, because you want to be better than the rest. If the competition is not doing something and you try it and you succeed, brilliant. If you don't succeed, don't do it again. So anyway, back in 2012, I came up with, because what happened was, I was working with a team of developers, and we were working together on a project. And this was, 2010. And DevOps had been defined about a year before. And we were actually doing some of the things associated with DevOps, because I'd been doing it for about 9 years, you know, using the same tools as the developers in terms of how we deployed changes out. Actually using source control, those kind of things. But I found at the time, we were arguing about what this DevOps thing was and whether or not we were doing it. And we were actually more hung up on whether we were doing DevOps than actually doing our jobs. And so in a meeting, and there was management, and there were technical people, and there were testers, and, you know, what have you. There was a whole group of people. And it came to me, I said, look, we've got some of the best industry tools. Why don't we use them? Create a process that allows us to automate the repeatable, reliable deployment of software to our clients. Why don't we make that our goal? Forget all this rubbish about DevOps. I'm done with it. I just want to do that. And we went with that. Now, after I read Donovan Brown's quote, I changed mine to business value. So it used to be software, now it's business value. What changed? I thought about it. We were not delivering software. We were making a difference for our clients. They didn't care about the ones and zeros. They didn't care about the index that I tuned or the query that we rewrote and made stuff go faster. They didn't care. What they cared about was what we delivered. And so this was our new goal. And when I talk to technical people, I use this. But then I distilled it over time to just, can we make stuff go? Will this make stuff go? And what we did was we looked at every single decision we made or we're going to make. Will it make stuff go? And I would hold myself accountable to that. And so I guess one of the things I want you to think about, and if nothing else, you take away this. Everything starts with identifying a problem. At the time, we were having horrible deploys. So we weren't even really delivering software. They weren't reliable, we weren't automating, and our process was manual and disjointed. And so your problem might sound something like this. You know, deployments to production are happening very rarely, maybe a few times a year. Testing happens months after development finishes, or doesn't happen at all. Operations teams are consistently and constantly firefighting. Developers find it near impossible to get any IT changes done. Architecture is despairing about the state of the system, and things are only ever getting worse. So identify your problem. Back when I started, making stuff go, I realized that there were the 4 tenets, right? So tools, we needed tools. But for a number of years, our deployment process was written out of Notepad++. I just wrote some command files and batch files, whatever. And over time, we bought TeamCity, we used Octopus Deploy. We also used Azure DevOps for particular things. But the thing was, as we started on this journey, we realized, as I mentioned before, our process was manual and disjointed. Things were copied from here to there, configurations and changes were manually done, and often wrong. I've written malformed XML 6 times in my career, and it's always been in prod for some weird reason. So we looked at our process and said, we need to change it. But the thing is, you need people, and you need the right kind of people. The people who are right-minded. And the really good news for you is you're that person. Because coming along to a session like this, yes, it doesn't have a demo. In fact, the main demo is, can I pull this off for 45 minutes talking purely about culture. But the thing is, you will be able to be the kind of person that creates a brilliant process using tools. And if you can show others, then you're going to form your own definition of culture. And look, culture, it's the partnership of teams. It's where we collaborate with all the stakeholders in the delivery of our value. The lines of business, marketing, sales, executives, partners, even our suppliers, clients, engineers, testers, DBAs, business analysts, product owners, all of us being brought together. Again, what is our goal? What are we doing? And if it's delivery of business value in an automated, repeatable, reliable process, brilliant. It works. And the thing is, I'm going to say one thing, and I'll repeat it over the course of this presentation. Start small. Start small in culture. You've got to start small in the tools, right? You can't have all the tools on day one. One, expenditure. And 2, if you try everything at once, you're going to fail. But if you try something small and you have a win, it's a really good positive feeling. And it means that you can then try the next thing and you can show incrementally what you've done. So, you've identified the problem. Basically now you need to assemble your DevOps working group. And we actually want to get key representatives from different areas, right? So development, ops, testing, architecture, or IT, whatever it is, that share, again, that common goal. And that common goal is quite simple. Work better, work together, work faster. But a transformation like this really needs alignment at the top as well. And that's why we need our business execs involved. And as it may just be too difficult to come organically from grassroots, right? From the teams being fed up as opposed to being fed up. And I'm sure everyone in the team can influence and help each other, but without alignment from the top, it will be difficult to change the working practices outside the teams, because we want this to grow. And you want your developers, ops, DBAs, testers feel like they're part of one family, an overarching team. And yes, that could be a cross-functional team. When I work with clients, often we will create 4 cross-functional teams that will have 4 developers, a tester, an ops person, BA, product owner, right? And we'll carve that out, as opposed to just a team of developers, a team of testers, a team of ops people. But again, that might not work for you having cross-functional teams. But here's the thing. What we don't want to do is just create a new silo of the DevOps team. Because what we've now got is we've got Dev, we've got Ops, and then bang in the middle, DevOps team who are not satisfying everyone, and now it's just horrid. So again, you need to look at how you'll form the team. It may not be exactly the same as me, but there's some common things that we can do. One of the common things we can do is get people to know each other, right? Make a conscious effort to introduce the teams to each other on a personal level. I had a situation where particularly 2 teams didn't get on. So we actually went out and socialised. I forced them to, pretty much. Well, it was free drinks and food. Everyone goes along for free drinks and food. And the thing was, once people got to know each other, right, we found that there was some commonality. You know, the same pain points that we had, they had as well. And so, yeah, it's very human to want to interact and talk to each other. Find a good communications channel, right? So we went away from email. We used Slack, right? And we created some channels, and there were some fun channels, and there was some serious channels, and a deployment channel, so that we stopped writing emails to our clients or internally when a deployment happened. Because, yeah, it was the UAT deploy, but I accidentally put in pre-prod because I copy and paste the email and I put the wrong version up. No, get rid of that. Get a communications channel, right? I think it's called Chat Ops or whatever. But or use Teams, or use whatever works for you. I worked with one client, they used Zoom as their main chat message, communication channel. Whatever, that's fine. And celebrate each other's achievements. One way to make people feel part of a team is to celebrate successes together. Operation success is development success, and vice versa. The other thing I do is I invite the DBAs or data professionals along to Scrum meetings, specifically sprint planning, because the way I see it, if we come along at sprint planning when application developers or even database developers are coming up with some ideas, we can add value by saying, hey, look, if you put an index here or you did this, that, the other, and we collaborate with them there, that's way better doing it there than when it's in production and everything's on fire. Right? And again, going along to sprint planning or sprint reviews, or even just going along to stand up to work out, to listen to what is happening, is so valuable for, again, collaborating and communicating together. And also knowledge sharing, right? So I personally hate silos of knowledge, and I try to encourage blame-free culture. And basically, sharing knowledge is key. when teams learn more about each other, they understand each other better. And it helps to eliminate blame. And we don't, again, have that silo of only one person knows how to do it. And if I try it, I'm going to fail. And basically, we want to build empathy, and we want to focus on solutions, process, and improvement. And one way of eliminating that blame culture is actually looking at the process rather than the individual. Alrighty, so we've identified the problems. Hopefully we've got management aligned. Our teams are connected and communicating. So what's next? Well, Gene Kim, really awesome thought leader, well, just leader, in the DevOps space, came up with the 3 ways. Defined them back in 2012. The 3 ways. So the first way is flow. This is the flow of work through our value stream or process stream, whatever works for you, right? But basically, we want to enable flow so that work within our system can move quickly. And it's very analogous for software development. We can compare it to a factory floor, right? So we have different workstations. We want work items to move through them quickly. Your stations could be business story being written, code being written, code being tested, code deployed to production. And the thing is, once you visualize the flow, and I am a practitioner of Kanban. I can coach teams in Scrum, but I prefer Kanban. The reason being, I come from an ops background, and in terms of how it meshes in with DevOps and where we want to incrementally deploy at all times, so just pull work in, get it across and out. Kanban sits well with me. Well, I'm not going to have the argument of Kanban versus Scrum. Anyway, by focusing on flow, we can improve the quality of our business stories and tasks. And the reason by this is we will collaborate with the business, right? So when it comes to refining the stories for our backlog, when it comes through to analyzing things, right? It means it's making sure that tasks don't have to go back to the business for refinement constantly. When we actually do some of that work up front and actually understand the requirements and, more importantly, the acceptance criteria of what we're doing, it helps with our flow. And look, over time, your board may actually grow, and you might have, expedite, because, things go bump. We do need to actually get work out the door very quickly. Or we might have, our standard class of work where things just flow from analyze, develop, test, done, right? And the thing is, we want to streamline all the things, right? One of the things we want to look at is system configuration. And if some process potentially slows the team down, it should be a focus of our streamlining, right? So we want to look at what is holding us up, work on it. And the thing is, once you start visualizing your work, making it visible, getting rid of the hidden work, it means that we know what work is going through our system, and more importantly, we can work on the areas that are slowing us down. The second way, is around feedback. And look, it's great when work moves fast, but if that work is of bad quality and has to continually move back up the chain to earlier steps in the process, bug is discovered or the requirement is misunderstood, so we have to stop and move it back, this ain't great. And when something goes wrong, we want to know as soon as possible. So what we need to do is implement fast and tight feedback loops in our system. And this is very much to do with quality control throughout our process, supported by automation, right? So this means we're going to write unit tests. We're going to find out right on my laptop at 3 in the afternoon that there is a bug that I wrote. We fix it at 3:05 p.m. in the afternoon. That's far better than a feedback loop 3 months later when it's in production. I can't remember what I wrote, 3 months ago. So if I'm looking at it now, I have no idea. And if it's at 3 in the morning, I definitely don't have any idea. So, what are some ways that we can tighten up our feedback loops? Business stories are reviewed quickly, right? So, testers, developers, business analysts, the three amigos of business requirements or business stories. We would get feedback far quicker when we're looking at it together there than, when it gets into testing and suddenly we find a problem, right? And a key thing here for testing is using automated testing as part of development. We should build up a suite of automated tests to know if things are broken by new development. So I write something here, I run it against the suite of known tests. Oh, I've broken something. I know now, not when it's deployed out into production. And look, there are different levels of testing which are appropriate across our deployment pipeline. I talked about unit tests. We then would have, say, functional test, system integration, user acceptance testing. Hopefully somewhere in there is performance testing and validation or testing of our automated deployment pipeline. So again, that speed of feedback across the different levels of testing is key. If something can be shown within 5 minutes that it's broken, that is better than spending hours. Some of the testing stages can be time consuming and these usually come later in the pipeline. We need to involve the business as quickly as possible. Showing a quick mock of a feature to get an idea is really good when we incorporate this. And again, we want to cut down the amount of time, the amount of manual work that we're doing. We also need to involve the business as quickly as possible. And we want to have good code review and branching processes. Merge, pull requests and code reviews are standard in the industry and they should be standard in your development processes. And if you're not making use of these yet, seriously consider them. And having an agreed and adequate definition of done. Definition of done is not when I have finished the code and thrown it over to the testers. Definition of done is actually working software. We want it, and by that I mean we want everyone to understand what it takes to finish a task so that it doesn't come back to haunt the respective teams, but also acknowledging that it is working software that is done, not just when I've finished writing lines of code. The third way of DevOps is continual experimentation and learning. Now, this is the only area I disagree with Gene Kim on. I actually think Gene should have said failure. The reason why I say that is because, even if you're doing everything perfectly, there is always going to be plenty of new challenges, people, technology, and projects, right? So we can't treat DevOps as a one-off effort and hope for it just to, we're done with this DevOps thing. It's not that. What we need to do is continuously experiment, right? We need to look at how we can continuously improve, and the only way we can do that is to fail. We want to have a culture where it's okay to take small risks at an appropriate place. When I'm developing way down here in my prod-like environment, it's okay to try Phantom.js, right? Or it's okay to start writing in Python for some component or microservice. And if we find that it doesn't work, cool, we'll throw it away. And we want to learn from the failure. We want to continuously experiment. And one of the things I did as an ops person was I put a lot of time and effort into building platforms for developers. so that they could, at the click of a button, spin up an environment, try something out. If it didn't work, delete the environment, spin it up again and try something else. That was what got me out of bed, being able to allow developers to innovate, fail, but also to succeed. And we just want to repeat and practice through these three things. Alrighty, so what does that look like? Here we have a little bit of continuous integration, right? So we're continuously merging code a number of times a day into source control. We're doing unit testing. We are doing build tests on the code that we've put into source control, and then we deploy immediately to a build environment. And look, people say to me, oh, we don't have enough infrastructure for all these environments, whatever. You'll see there the Kubernetes symbol. Replace it with a Docker symbol, right? Or the cloud, or whatever. And the build environment is built from source control, and it's prod-like. That means that if prod was a 1 terabyte database, this might only be 50 megabytes. But at one point, it was exactly the same setup, the same structure, schema, security, whatever, as prod. And then we incrementally deploy to it. And then once we're happy there, we'll deploy out to integration. And we'll deploy out to functional test. And then we might let humans near it with user acceptance test environment, or UAT. And we want to develop and test against these prod-like systems. And we're going to deploy with reliable automated processes. And we're going to deploy small iterative batches. And if something breaks in UAT, we'll just come back and start developing and the fix for it. And then we'll push it out. And when it's done there, we'll push it through to pre-prod. And, you know, pre-prod might be refreshed from production as part of our last deploy stage. Or we might just refresh it every single day. Whatever works. But what it means is that our applications, our databases, our code is tested in an environment as close to production that the app or code database will be delivered to. And I am a fan of infrastructure as code. I help clients embrace Terraform to build up their services both in the cloud or using VMware with Terraform. Or if the client says, we want to use CloudFormation, sweet as, we can do that. Or if they say, we only use ARM templates, okay, I can do that too. But more importantly, the premise is the same. We are going to build our infrastructure, our services, our databases, our whatever, web servers, Redis, cache, something or others, from code, so that they are consistent, they're declarative, and it means that we can collaborate. Because how many times have you asked operations to provide a server and you get something that is not what you want and it took 2 weeks? Through here, we have continuous monitoring, and I have a culture of continuous monitoring because we want to monitor and validate the performance of our system. And what this will do is it will allow us to get to that automated, repeatable, reliable delivery of value. So, DevOps and culture. What are some of the cultural wins for Dev? Guess what? We're going to have faster deployments. Faster deployments and feedback loops get to the heart of what developers really want. Code goes from their laptop into the user's hands much faster, and with continuous delivery, right, what I just showed you, it enables rapid iteration and improvement. And we've got tight feedback loops because we're testing the whole way through and we're just using automation. Let the machines do the work. We're better at collaborating. And tracking improvements to your change and lead time during, early pilots is a really good place to begin because we can, again, increase our workflow, right? So how quickly can code move from dev's laptop to production? How does this stack up against our prior lead times, right? So lead time is where the feature comes in, we start on it, to when we deliver it. And How often are we deploying now versus then? When I was in management, I used to measure all the deployments, and I could go back. There was a classic example, the same deploy we did 6 months apart when we introduced both continuous integration and continuous delivery. The deploys used to take 4 hours. Same deploy took 10 seconds. Difference being, the 4 hours was all manual, and we were basically tearing down the software and rebuilding it while, stuff was going wrong. So yeah, another measurement, have deployments become easier and faster. What's our velocity? Don't get, I do have to say, don't get too hung up on we have to deploy 15 times a day, because that's what, other companies do. You need to deploy as fast as you can, and that is appropriate, right? If it's appropriate for you to only deploy to prod once a week, do it. But deploy to continuous integration or build or functional test environments many times, so that, again, you find out those bugs early on. What are the cultural wins for those ops people? Uptime's going to be better. Ops benefit when developers work closely with them, as do developers. And the reason being is because we're talking the same language. We're talking about the effect that the developer's code will have on the platform, and we're talking about how the platform can be enhanced for the code. And one of the ways we can do this is it can be helpful agreeing on a common tool chain and actually having the two teams work together to adopt the same tools used in development for integration, testing, and deploying, and doing infrastructure as code. How I got onto infrastructure as code was thanks to a developer. Because they know how to automate stuff, I know what a server should look like, we work together. And another way was we got some tooling, right? So Octopus Deploy. Developers had a need, as did I. I needed to spin up servers repeatedly and reliably, and we used Octopus to punch out both environments and to do a form of configuration management on our servers. We want to measure uptime, and are we able to better meet our service level requirements? Has downtime decreased? And more importantly, can we recover quicker? And the thing is, if you have a standardized way of provisioning your platform, it's going to be far easier and quicker to recover because it's standard. And honestly, the failure rate will decrease. And so again, it's okay to measure these things, but measure against the process, not people. People don't like that. And it's not going to give you the clear measurement anyway. And look, it's going to be better working hours and ultimately life. If I said to you, you do not have to get up at 3 in the morning, we'll use the computers to do the deploys. I've yet to have someone say, no, I want to get up at 3 in the morning, work till 7 in the morning, do a horrible deploy, go to bed for 2 hours and come into work. I've yet to meet someone who wants to continue doing that. Or how about we allocate, 3 hours a week working on automating this stuff, looking at ways to improve the deployment process so the machines do it at 3 in the morning. And if something goes wrong, the machines roll it back, not me. All right, collaboration, communication, and common sense. You need to build a business case. And the reason why I say this is because, like many of us in IT, you're asked to not only deliver more products and services than ever before, but you have to do so with greater speed and quality, and with no hits to reliability or decreasing our, risking our security profile. And the thing is, you need to make a clear, convincing case for DevOps that reduces fear and converts the skeptics into champions. And part of that is senior management, because they need to understand why we need to invest money into this. Because it is going to cost some money. It's going to cost time of people as well as buying the tools. I mean, we started off, we used a lot of the freeware type tools or the community editions until we proved our business case. And one way I did it was time in lieu. I said, if we buy Octopus Deploy, I can decrease time in lieu by 75% over the course of 3 months with this team. Because we had a massive time in lieu problem. And thing was, after 3 months, we measured it. Unfortunately, I failed. I didn't reduce time in lieu by 75%. I decreased it by 100%. And that was pretty cool. And what it meant was we had started small. We had a project that we knew that we could do this. We put a lot of time and effort. And the thing was, we showed the success. I measured the success, again, by time in lieu and relating it back to dollars and cents. Because CEOs, the only thing they care about in life is profit margins. Nothing else. So if I can translate what DevOps and more importantly the cultural aspects of what we're going to do with our teams into a dollars and cents thing, CEOs are all over it. But again, start small. And the thing is, celebrate the wins. You know, thing is, we can't just go out to the business and say, we're going to do DevOps. It's not going to get people on board. Instead, we need a compelling answer to the why. And more importantly, the why now. And the thing is, we want to, again, tie this back into delivering value for our clients. And we've got to embrace the failures, right? The thing is, I fail. I fail on a daily basis and I'm proud of it. But I fail appropriately. I fail in continuous integration or build environments and I celebrate lots in the production environments. Because all the way through, we failed and we remediated, and then by the time we got to production, it's literally the world's most boring deploy because it's been tested. We know what's going to happen. And more importantly, if it doesn't happen, we know what then will happen. So yeah, these are things you need to look at. And again, I've got to say, start small with the cultural shift. Don't expect to sell DevOps to everyone at once. In fact, I found by winning over smaller groups with specific projects, we then create ambassadors who can help promote DevOps elsewhere in the organization, kind of creating a multiplier effect. And as you build your business case, we need to remain mindful of potential obstacles to our long-term DevOps success. One of the things I did for my business case was talk to sales and marketing and ask for their help in writing a business case, because they do it all day. I don't. It's not my forte. I was pretty actually anxious about it, but they helped me out and it was brilliant. Alrighty. So, culture of success. Improve your product development cycles. You know, we're going to get our new features and products to market faster. We're going to release with fewer bugs. We're going to incrementally deliver faster. We're going to experiment more, which means that we can innovate more, which means that we can increase our customer satisfaction. And that innovation means that we're going to drive our customer engagement. We're going to increase not only their satisfaction, their experience, but their loyalty to us. They will want to come back and do more work with us. They'll want more services or apps or whatever from us. And this will drive more sales and more leads. We will have clients who will promote us because we're the people. Our culture of success, of collaboration with the clients, communication with the clients, not only when things go wrong, right, but when things go wrong, you know? And this means, you know, we're reinvesting the human time, creativity, energy saved by reducing manual rework and downtime means that we can actually achieve great business results. And we can show this and understand it and include the value of technological transformation in our return on investment calculations. Again, tying it back to business case. Cool. So, We don't want any more of this. We want to get away from this, where dev are just lobbing the code grenade over the proverbial wall, ops are stressed, and what's the first thing most DBAs say to a question? No. The reason why they say no is they're protecting stuff. Well, at least they think they are. These two teams share two common characteristics. They communicate very little, and they probably hate each other. Okay, I admit it's a bit dramatic, but I'm sure you've seen it in action, right? Developers are blaming operations for breaking their systems. Testers complaining about the low quality of the deliverables from the incompetent developers. Operations frustrated by arbitrary obstacles thrown at them by security architects. And architects frustrated with the seemingly ad hoc business decisions, and business frustrated with a failing project. So we want to get away from silos. We want to get away from a culture where this is. We want to move towards a culture where those hands I talked about, they're again a helping hands on a journey of togetherness. Look, there are a number of articles out there, right? So Puppet do a state of DevOps. In 2016, one of their reports, so they do an annual report. It's a really good report. They have 50,000 data points. So it's not just like a SurveyMonkey thing, right? They go out and they research the heck out of what is happening in our industry with regards to DevOps. And in 2016, they did a whole report on culture, and it was awesome. And they tied it back to what it will do for your business. So think about how culture can be a vital component of your DevOps practices, processes, and philosophy. And the thing is, don't worry about, the old unicorn companies and everything. That unicorn that you think, right? So the Googles, the Netflix, the Amazons, the whatever. Don't worry about unicorns. Because that unicorn could actually just be a donkey wearing a party hat. Here's the deal. I want to party with the donkeys when our deploys to prod are boring and they just work. So, let's chat about culture. What do you think? Am I right? Or more importantly, am I wrong? I'm going to stick around and chat. Give me your opinion. Here are my details. I want you to have a good rest of your day, night, wherever you are. I write a blog, but more importantly, I help people make stuff go. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your SQL Bits 2020.